One of the best feelings in life is having moments with the ones you love, even if you're far away from each other. Despite being 1,000 miles apart, our feelings haven't changed. Being beside you is a wish that I've long desired. With professional help, the long wait is over. Bridge the gap with Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions. You can study, work, or live in Australia. With the help of our experts, you can fix your migration and visa application efficiently. Now, love doesn't have to be distant. Call us now.
A dream. Everyone has it. Distractions are everywhere, which makes us feel far from our dreams. Now, there is a way to close that gap. With AMVPS, we can take the one less travel by, and that has made all the difference. Whether big or small, our dreams are there to take us to write our future. Be a scholar now. To learn more, visit our website at amvpsolutions.info. Like us on Facebook at Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions. A dream. Everyone has it. Distractions are everywhere, which makes us feel far from our dreams. Now, there is a way to close that gap. With AMVPS, we can take the one less travel by, and that has made all the difference. Whether big or small, our dreams are there to take us to write our future. Be a scholar now. To learn more, visit our website at amvpsolutions.info. Like us on Facebook at Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions.
If you have a dream, chase for it. Simulan mo nang abutin. Make it happen. Work and raise your family in Australia with AMVPS. Make your future bright with AMVPS. Migration, education, pangarap ay maabot na. AMVPS, ang kasama mo. AMVPS, AMVPS, AMVPS.
For inquiries, visit our website amvpsolutions.info and Facebook page Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions.
If you have a dream, chase for it. Simulan mo nang abutin. Make it happen. Go
Good day, everyone. My name is Edmund Galvez, and I am the registered migration agent of Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions. Today's information session will focus more on overseas lawyers, particularly Philippine lawyers. So I'll be sharing to you my notes so that you will have a good visual of what I'm going to say. It's a lengthy process. It involves studying, taking the practical legal training or apprenticeship, and applying for admission before the Supreme Court of the state where you seek to be admitted as a lawyer here in Australia. I'll just move back to the. Sorry. So, information session for Philippine lawyers. As you can see, there's New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, Western Australia, South Australia. So each state has its own rules, admission policies before you be qualified to practice law here in Australia. First would be about skills assessment. So if you're a migrant here, you need to have a positive skills assessment. Now, the following information deals with the assessment of skills for purposes associated with an application for migration under the category General Skilled Migration Program for occupations 1, legal practitioner or barrister with the code 271111, and also solicitor with the code 271311. The process of skills assessment may vary from state to state in Australia, given that the legal system is regulated by each independent state, who have their own requirements that need to be met. In my experience, I made documents to Victorian Legal Admission Board, as I am living in Victoria and I want to practice law in Victoria. Applicants should be aware that the board's understanding is that the Department of Home Affairs will not issue a skilled migration visa until an applicant is actually skilled. It requires a positive skills assessment. That's the meaning of it. Applicants will not be considered skilled until they have actually been admitted to the legal profession under the Act. So if you have been admitted, then that's equivalent to a positive skills assessment. Okay. Internationally qualified lawyers are highly sought after to fill some of the major skills shortages in Australia, even though there are many Australian law graduates coming out of university every year. The prospective applicants' educational qualifications and post-study work experience is determined under the uniform principles for assessing qualifications of overseas applicants for admission to the Australian legal profession. That is relevant to the state that the applicant is seeking to make an application. So the primary law governing admission of an overseas lawyer is the uniform principles for assessing qualifications of overseas applicants for admission to the Australian legal profession. This is a lengthy document. In today's information session, we will not be reading each page. I have already digested it and I will be simplifying it for you. Now, there are 4 mandatory requirements for an overseas lawyer, a Philippine lawyer, to be admitted as a lawyer here in Australia. To be admitted to the legal profession in an Australian jurisdiction on the basis of qualifications obtained outside Australia, an applicant must usually have, number 1, completed a tertiary course leading to legal practice in the applicant's home jurisdiction. And it is substantially equivalent to a 3-year full-time law course that leads to admission to the legal profession in Australia. As you can see, here in Australia, the law course is only for 3 years. So an overseas lawyer must have completed a tertiary course leading to legal practice in the applicant's home jurisdiction. It could be a bachelor degree or a JD in the Philippines. Second mandatory requirement is that the applicant must successfully completed subjects, either as part of that course or otherwise, which are substantially equivalent to the areas of study which Australian applicants must successfully complete before being admitted to the legal profession in Australia. So when you submit your transcript of records to the board, depending on what state you want to practice, they will compare the subjects that you have taken if it is equivalent to the areas of study which Australian applicants must successfully complete. The third requirement would be the applicant must have acquired and demonstrated an appropriate understanding and competence in certain skills, practice areas, and values which are substantially equivalent to the skills, practice areas, and values which Australian applicants must acquire and demonstrate an understanding and competence before being admitted to the legal profession in Australia. In the Philippines, we don't have apprenticeship. In Australia, they have practical legal training. And last requirement is that the applicant must have undertaken the International English Language Testing System academic module, or the so-called IELTS test, within 2 years before seeking admission and obtain a minimum scores of 8 for writing, 7.5 for speaking, and 7 for reading and listening. In my personal opinion, getting 8 for writing is not easy. So it requires practice, and as you know, IELTS has its own criteria in each band. So it's better to have a coach on how to hit these criteria and not retake IELTS test again and again. Prescribed areas of knowledge. Sharing my experience when I submitted my transcript of records, my Bachelor of Laws records, I graduated from Atty de Davao University. I was required to retake the following subjects: criminal law and procedure, torts, contracts, property, equity, company law, administrative law, federal and state constitutional law, civil procedure, evidence, and ethics and professional responsibility. Criminal law, in my experience, in the Philippines, we have so many crimes. Here in Australia, there are only few. Federal and state constitutional law, it's very different. So that's the reason why you really need to study it again. Property as well, and torts. Now, an applicant who has completed an academic qualification for more than 5 years before seeking admission in Australia may be required to undertake further law studies or seek further examinations in Australia. In my experience, I passed the bar 2013. I was admitted to the legal profession 2013. I took the 2012 bar examination. I wasn't required to take further subjects. So if you have completed your degree for more than 5 years, then you might be required to undertake further law studies. This is likely up to happen if an applicant has not previously been admitted to the legal profession as well. So take note that it's not mandatory that you pass the bar examinations in the Philippines to have your transcript of records assessed by the board, because they will also accept applications. Note that the admitting authority considers some or all of the applicant's academic qualification to be out of date, which means that the applicant would not be able to satisfy the requirement for admission unless undertaking the required education to do so. Now, demonstrating equivalence. For an applicant to satisfy an admitting authority that the applicant has acquired and demonstrated an appropriate understanding or competence in a particular skill, practice area, or value, the applicant must provide documentary evidence. So you need to submit these documents. Number one, an evidence which explicitly sets out how the applicant has acquired and demonstrated appropriate understanding and competence in the relevant skill, practice area, or value for which exemption is sought. Number two, shows how the practice is undertaken by the applicant has satisfied each relevant element set out for that skill. And third, is corroborated by written evidence by the applicant's employer or person with whom the applicant has been associated with in practice. So this has something to do with apprenticeship maybe or practical legal training. You must show that you have acquired and demonstrated an understanding, competence in a particular skill, practice area, or value. Experienced practitioners. Question: how much further study is required to be achieved by an experienced practitioner? So take note that the admitting authority or the board of the state where you want to practice does have a broad discretion to dispense with some or all of the additional academic studies or practical legal training usually required. So the English language proficiency test, take note, it's not the general but the academic module. So you must complete the IELTS academic module and obtain minimum scores of 8 for writing, 7.5 for speaking, 7 for reading, and 7 for listening. And it should be for 2 years. You must take the test within 2 years before applying for admission, not admission to the board, not admission to the school. Now, these are the common additional academic requirements. So, if you are a graduate from the Philippines, you might be required to retake again the following: administrative law, criminal law, equity, federal and state constitutional law, property, torts, and any other prescribed subjects that have not been studied as part of the degree. Now, stages. I have made here a step-by-step process before one be admitted to the legal profession in Australia. So stage 1, the applicant has applied for an assessment with the overseas academic qualification with the board. So the board can either be the Victorian Legal Admission Board if you want to practice law here in Victoria or in Melbourne, or in New South Wales Law Society, or in Queensland Board. And then second stage would be assessment of an applicant's overseas academic qualifications has been completed by the board and provided to the relevant applicant. Now, what would be the recommendation after assessment? You will be required to undertake several subjects. And then, if you already received that letter of recommendation, you must enroll. Now, let's go to stage 3. Applicant has enrolled in any required supplementary academic qualifications which are to be completed at a university in Australia. For example, if you want to practice law in Victoria, it is advisable to study in any of the universities here in Victoria. If you want to practice law in Queensland, it's advisable to study law in Queensland because each state has its own laws. Australia is a federal country and each state are considered independent and sovereign from the other. And then once you have completed the supplementary academic qualifications, at a university in Australia, you can proceed with stage 5. Applicant has enrolled in practical legal training course or commence a supervised traineeship. Or applicant has applied for an assessment of their overseas practical legal training and experience. In the Philippines, we don't have PLT, so you will be required to undergo practical legal training or PLT or commence a supervised traineeship. Where an applicant has applied for an assessment of their overseas practical legal training and experience in practice, the PLT assessment has been completed and provided to the relevant applicant. Now, stage 7, where an applicant has applied for an assessment of their overseas practical legal training and experience in practice, an applicant has enrolled in any of the supplementary practical legal training which are to be completed at a PLT provider in Australia. PLT can be for 1 year. The duration of the PLT can be 1 year. And then stage 8, applicant has completed any required supplementary practical legal training at a PLT provider in Australia. And stage 9, applicant has applied for admission to the Supreme Court of that particular state and be served a copy of the relevant application on the board. And final stage would be applicant has been admitted to the legal profession. So these are the stages for an overseas qualified lawyer must take before become an Australian lawyer. So stage 1, apply for assessment to the board. Stage 2, the board gives its recommendation. In Victoria, they give me the VLAB letter, which states what are the subjects that I will be taking or to take, and the PLT. And take note that there is a prescriptive period. It's for 5 years from the date of the assessment. Some say it can be extended depending on compelling and compassionate grounds. Now, once you finish the course, you need to do the practical legal training for 1 year. And then afterwards, you apply for admission to the board, and then you can then be admitted to the legal profession. So that's the steps, the stages. Now let's proceed with each state. How to make a skills assessment application with the New South Wales Legal Board of Australia. So once applicant has completed and the required additional subjects, they can apply for admission as a solicitor, and the solicitor must advise the details of firm for whom he will work for and practice law where he seeks to practice in. And once admission as a solicitor is granted, a letter is provided from Law Society of New South Wales stating that the person has been admitted as solicitor in New South Wales and has fulfilled all the requirements. So this is the equivalent to the positive skills assessment result, which can be used for the expression of interest and visa application process. What about in Victoria? Skills assessment process in Victoria for foreign qualified lawyers. All applications for a direction about your academic qualifications and practical legal training must be made to the board using the online client portal. The board will only accept paper application in circumstances where you are unable to use the portal. And the fees, it's 320 per academic and 6 or PLT, and for both is 640. My experience, I did submitted all my documents to the VLAB email. That was way back 2014. So now they have an online portal. It took several months before they rendered a recommendation, and after I submitted the documents, they required me to write an essay about the subjects that I have finished, and they asked a copy of a syllabus to see what are the topics that have been discussed. So I asked a copy from the registrar's office and submitted it back to them. And luckily, I was given the recommendation letter. They required me to take several subjects and to undergo practical legal training. I haven't finished the studies yet, but soon I will take the opportunity to finish it within the recommended period. What about for South Australia? Skills assessment process in South Australia for foreign qualified lawyers. Assessments for South Australian applicants are provided by the Victorian Legal Admissions Board in accordance with the Law Admissions Consultative Committee's uniform principles for assessing overseas qualifications. So VLAB not only holds Victoria but also South Australia. Applications for assessments are made by applicants direct to VLAB. To make application to VLAB, you will need to create an account for a foreign lawyer or foreign graduate assessment if not admitted overseas. Skills assessment process in South Australia for foreign qualified lawyers. The portal will tell you what documents you need to upload for the purpose of the assessment. You will need to obtain certified copies of original documents such as official transcripts and graduation certificates. The fee is 200 AUD. And VLAB will only commence the assessment process when it has received confirmation from the society that the fee has been received. It can take up to 14 weeks for VLAB to complete its assessment. What about in Western Australia? All overseas qualified and admitted applicants will have further academic and practical legal training to complete in Australia. Individual requirements will be detailed in the assessment statement issued by the board. Requirements must be commenced within 12 months and completed within 5 years of the issue of the assessment statement. Applicants will be required to meet English language proficiency requirements when they apply for admission. And following admissions, all practitioners will be required to complete a period of employment under supervision or the PLT. So that's all. And I hope you learned something for today. If you have any inquiries, just send me an email and we will answer you back. Thank you so much for your time and bye-bye.
One of the best feelings in life is having moments with the ones you love, even if you're far away from each other. Despite being 1,000 miles apart, our feelings haven't changed. Being beside you is a wish that I've long desired. With professional help, the long wait is over. Bridge the gap with Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions. You can study, work, or live in Australia. With the help of our experts, you can fix your migration and visa application efficiently. Now, love doesn't have to be distant. Call us now.
If you have a dream, chase for it. Simulan mo nang abutin. Make it happen. Work and raise your family in Australia with AMBPS. Make your future bright with AMBPS. Migration, education, baka may maabot ng AMBPS ang kasama mo. AMBPS, AMBPS, AMBPS.
Visit our website, amvpsolutions.info, and Facebook page, Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions.
A dream. Everyone has it. Distractions are everywhere, which makes us feel far from our dreams. Now, there is a way to close that gap. With AMVPS, we can take the one less travel by, and that has made all the difference. Whether big or small, our dreams are there to take us to write our future. Be a scholar now. To learn more, visit our website at amvpsolutions.info. Like us on Facebook at Aussie Migration and Visa Professional Solutions.
If you have a dream, chase for it. Simulan mo nang abutin. Make it happen.